Hi guys, thanks for tuning into my channel and for watching another episode of Conversations with Diana, where I interview real people who have real stories, who are pursuing their passions in order to make a difference in the world. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like, share, and enable that notification button so you don't miss an episode. And for those of you who wish to be a sponsor for our upcoming episodes, feel free to email me at info@dianamyrie.com. That's info@dianamyrie.com. Juliet Dunn has been the executive director, producer, and co-creator of the TD Niagara Jazz Festival for the past 8 years. She's also the producer, co-creator, and programmer of the Twilight Jazz Series. She's an event planner for numerous events, including Hungry for Hammond Series, Connected World, Jazz in the Park Series, and many others too numerous to mention. She's also the booking agent for Jade, her very own entertainment company with notable clients including some of the finest wineries in the Niagara Region, Wolfgang Puck, the City of St. Catharines, and the Niagara Historical Museum. She was also an actress and singer for film and television in Paris, France, and a keynote speaker and radio show host. She also teaches and facilitates music and acting workshops. Juliet has been the recipient of numerous awards, including the Making a Difference in Arts Awards, Women in Business Awards, and the Top 100 Festivals in Ontario. She's also an active volunteer in her community and takes part in numerous charitable events. Hi Juliet, it's great seeing you again. Welcome to the show.
Thanks Diana, nice to see you.
Thank you. So tell our viewers a bit about your background and how did you get into music?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I'm half Jamaican, half British. I was born in England. We came over in the 70s to British Columbia, actually. That's where my family still is. So I went to school in BC, went to high school, and I always wanted to learn French. And I wanted to be a fashion designer, so I went to Paris, France, as a nanny. Yeah, and then I stayed there I ended up staying for 13 years because I'm British. I could work there legally.
Yes.
So I would stay and come home and see my family. And then I had a later start. I did a little bit of musical theater in school, but I did more dance when I was in high school. And then when I was in France, just through meeting friends, I met a friend who was a musician, worked with another friend who had written lyrics, and then I worked with them doing some backups, and then he said, you should maybe take some vocal training if you really like this. And I was already in my 20s, so I was a later start.
Nice.
Started to take vocal lessons. My vocal teacher was really into jazz. That was his genre, so I kind of knew a little bit about jazz and jazz vocals, but kind of really discovered it with my singing teacher. And then that's when I was in France, and so I was ended up doing more acting when I was living there, and a bit of musical theater. And then I came back to Vancouver after 13 years in 2000. Don't do the math. So you're going to do the math, figure out how old I am.
It's a lot.
No, it's okay.
You don't look it, doesn't show.
Thank you. And so, yeah, I was in Vancouver, did some community theater, because I hadn't done theater. I'd done some film and TV in France. And then everybody who was I was involved with in community theater said, we all send our stuff to the Shaw Festival. And I'd been living in France, so I hadn't heard of the famous Shaw Festival Theater Company. Yeah. But I sent in my package. I didn't get an audition, but they said you can crash the audition, which means you just show up and maybe you get to audition if there's time.
Okay.
So I did that in 2002, and quite to my surprise, I actually got hired by the Shaw Festival.
Good for you.
Yeah, with no official acting training, but I had done community theater, and I came out as an apprentice, but I was already then in my 30s doing that. I'd been, sorry, I forgot. So when I was in France, I released a couple of records, singles, and did some with the music scene, yes. So, then I'd never done theater until my last year in France, Godspell, just some community theater. And then I came to Niagara in 2002 for the Shaw Festival as a singer and an actress, and I've been here ever since. And I did 2 seasons at the Shaw, and then started to pursue my jazz career.
So tell us more about the jazz career. When did you first realize you wanted to do jazz specifically?
That's a great question. So I would say at that time when I came across my singing teacher. So in my 20s, my voice is kind of an in-between. So most songs are written in the key, and most songs are written for most people to sing. It's usually too, as a female, it would be too high for me, and if the male singing it the octave down, it would be too low. So I've always been kind of an in-between. But there's a lot of jazz singers who have deeper voices. So like if I listening to the radio growing up, if it was Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston, I like the music, but I can't quite sing it there because they sing higher than I do. But who I could sing with were all these jazz tunes I'd hear, say Billie Holiday or Sarah Vaughan, Nina Simone. And this is when I'm younger, but my voice was already kind of there. So that kind of drew me, because it's nice to sing along, and it's frustrating if you can't sing along to a song you like. So I guess I was kind of drawn to jazz, just kind of singing along to the jazz singers. And then of course it just so happened that the singing teacher I started with, he was a huge jazz singer himself, a French jazz singer. So he kind of really inspired me quite a bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you who inspired you, and if you have any other mentors that would have helped you along your path towards being in this industry.
Yeah, so in terms of singing would definitely be my singing teacher, Jean Salamero, and then different peers over the years who have been involved in the arts have inspired me. And then with the festival, I have some festival friends, other festival friends who run festivals, but they're say a few years ahead. For example, Alfredo, who runs the TD Sunfest out in London, Ontario. I think his festival's in about year 25, and I've emceed there for several years before COVID. So he's doing virtual now as well. But to see somebody who's been running a festival, I've always asked him questions, for guidance, and so in the festival world, it would be him. And then in terms of just inspirational people, I mean, I always go to my mom and my sisters for sure, and I guess that's about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It really does make sense to have people around you that can support your dream.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit of the challenges you would have faced doing or coming up in the industry, and any information or advice you could give someone who is looking to get into this career.
Yeah. So that's funny, because there's something I would like to say to like the young singers. I mean, lately I haven't been singing as much. I've been doing more producing with the festival, but I do remember, the industry now. This is going back, right? So my view of the industry and what I'm going to talk about now, things may be quite different, and record labels and all of that kind of stuff. But you've got to be tough, for sure, right? And I find frustrating in the industry. It's for example, when I was a late bloomer in the whole industry. So I had a record released in France, and I was 26, but the producer said I was too old.
Wow.
So you know what I mean?
Things have changed.
Yeah. So hopefully they're not still saying that to artists, right? Because they were like, yeah, but she's 26. It's kind of like, and that's a shame, right? So I guess my big kind of message or advice was, don't listen to what people say all the time. Like, take some advice and constructive criticism. But it can be very discouraging, and so you have to have kind of a tough skin. And if you really want to do it, you do have to work hard and stick with it. For sure.
Great advice. Great advice. Tell us about the history of the Jazz Festival and how it was conceptualized.
Okay, so after I did my years at Shaw, so that was 2003, I started to work with Matt. He's actually worked at the Shaw, and he had a jazz band, and was already interested in jazz from my singing teacher, and had been singing a little bit of jazz, and so I said, could I come and sit in with you sometime? And so I started to sit in with Matt and his band. So that was 2003, and then one of his band members, Brian, a sax player, he says, well, if you want to pursue a jazz career, you need to get your book together, right? So get all of your jazz charts, because the jazz musicians, you can then hire different jazz musicians, and then they can just play your book. So I said, okay, how am I going to do that? And so I went out to Cat's Caboose that had an ongoing jazz jam, and one of our local jazz heroes here, Randy Sturtzinger, he's a piano player. So I went up to Randy and I said, I want to be singing some jazz. And so when I talked about mentors, I should have mentioned Randy. So so he kind of took me under his wing, and we'd work together, and then when we needed a bigger band and we needed a bass player. He had a list of bass players, and so I would start gigging around and started to build my book with Randy. So that was about 2003, and then I started to book gigs at different wineries. I kind of went door to door and said, hey, I have a band. Would you like wine and jazz goes well together? Yes. Would you like to hire us? And so my very first winery gig was with Stratus Vineyards, and now just all of these years later, we're still working with Stratus with the festival, which is exciting. So that's how my singing with the jazz happened. And then in 2006, I met my husband, Peter, who's a jazz musician. So of course, he had gigs, I had gigs, but then we ended up doing lots of gigs together.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then so Peter's a piano player, singer, and drummer. Actually, he's a drummer first, which a lot of people don't know. And then so Peter and I we did 3 overseas gigs. So you would go to, this is before COVID, go to a hotel and stay there for 3 months, and sometimes be a duo or a trio and perform in the lounge. So we did that in Hong Kong, we did that in Morocco. Really fun. And then we worked on 3 very high-end cruise ships. So every winter we would go away, and then in the summer we'd do music. And so in 2011, I got a gig at Jazz FM 91, which is a jazz radio station. So because of that gig, it was a good gig, and I was excited, but we couldn't do the traveling anymore. So we were not stuck, but we were here in Ontario because I had a show every week. So I said to Peter, well, maybe we should, do a jazz series or something. And that's when we started. So October 2011, same month that I started at Jazz FM, we said, let's do a series. Yes. So we started a jazz series, which was every week. Then it turned into twice a month, and then it was, I think, once a month. And we started, of course, because we were free, we plugged our own bands into the series at first, right? So once a month, one of our bands, we'd have our duo or my French band, which I think we're going to listen to later. And so once a month it would be one of our bands, and then we'd bring in other musicians. So we started to build that. We got a bit of sponsorship, and then after a few years, I'm trying to think, so that was 2011. 2013, I said to Peter, I'd really like to do a festival, because so growing up I would go to the Folk Arts Festival with my family in Vancouver. When I lived in Europe, I went to WOMAD. It's World of Music and Dance. It's a festival that Peter Gabriel started. Okay. And right now we don't have this because of COVID, but that vibe, if the people watching have never been to a festival, it's just magical when you can go to an event for free. Yes. So something that's open to everybody. When there's food from different countries, there's music, there's just laughter and love and life, and it's just a really good feeling. And
sounds that way.
Yeah. So we wanted to recreate that. So I said, we do our jazz series inside. Why don't we give people, kind of a taste of what's to come? Let's take our Twilight Jazz series, take it outside. So we tried to do, we did, but not very well, an event called Twilight Jazz on the beach. But the thing is, because we were starting out, we were the band, we were the roadies, we were, do you know what I mean? We did everything. Yeah, and it was a very long day. The weather turned out not to be great. We hired some dancers to do some swing dancing, but we didn't think it through that time because it was the first time. So they were on a beach and dancing in the sand and bare feet is pretty hard.
I can't imagine.
So, later in the festival, we would bring in a dance floor for that. But so we kind of learned the hard way. But anyway, and so that was November 2013. And then one of Peter's students was a local businessman, Joe Robertson, and we asked him for some business advice. We said, we really want to start a festival, and how does it work? And he helped us. He said, we found out that you should really be a not-for-profit because that's how festivals work. And so then we started a board with Joe. And that was November 2013, and then we decided to try our first festival in August of 2014. We tried to apply for a grant, but the thing with grant funding is if you've got nothing to show from before, why are they going to give you money? Right. So we had to get a track record first, and we didn't even have our social media tag at Jazz Niagara. I had ones for myself, but not for the festival. And so when you're trying to get funding, they want to see how many followers you have, how many impressions, and all of that, all those social media metrics, which I didn't even know what the word meant back then. Yeah. And so we thought, well, let's just try and do this festival small this year and then build it. And we did it. and it was a big learning curve, and it's still every day is a learning curve. And but we've grown it over the years, and now we're in our 8th season. And then now our Twilight Jazz Series, which was kind of a separate animal for most along the way, but sometimes people didn't know it was a separate animal because it was still Peter and I. So now it's under the umbrella of the festival, and we've kind of brought it all together.
Brought everything together.
Yes, that's a very long answer to your question. Sorry.
But very interesting, and kudos to you for not giving up. You know, because in every business there's always that what they call teething process. So you go through all the different growing pains.
Growing pains, for
and
sure.
8 years later, you're still here. So that's a testament to your courage and determination. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Just want to pause here to play a quick video highlighting Juliet and her band at the Jazz Bistro.
Merci beaucoup. It's a lady who put this tune on the map, and she wasn't French. I'll give you a hint. Too easy, right? Eartha Kitt. She also put that Santa Baby tune on the map. Louis Armstrong did a very good version of this tune as well. Might need your help if you're not too busy eating. Probably eat and snap at the same time. A drummer could. Right, Roby? Right, Peter? We got some surprises in store for you. Just you wait. C'est bon de partir n'importe où, bras dessus, bras dessous, en chantant des chansons. Oh, c'est bon de se dire des mots doux, des petits riens de tout, mais qui en disent long en voyant notre mine ravie. Des passants dans la rue nous envient. Oh, c'est bon de guetter dans ses yeux un espoir merveilleux qui donne le frisson. Oh, c'est si bon, ces petites sensations, ça vaut mieux qu'un million, tellement, tellement c'est bon. Let's hear it for Peter Shea on the piano. Duncan Hopkins on the bass.
Solely.
C'est bon. Lovers say that in France when they're thrilled to romance, it means that it's all good. Oh, c'est si bon. So I'll say this to you, like the French people do, because it's all good. Every word, every phrase, every kiss, dear, leads to only one thing, and that's this, dear. Oh, c'est bon. Nothing else can replace just your warmest embrace. And if only you would be my home till the end of my days, I would whisper this phrase, my darling, c'est si bon. Ah oui, c'est si bon. Oh yes, c'est si bon. Encore une fois, c'est si bon. Merci beaucoup.
That was so smooth. Oh my
Thank
goodness.
you.
Do you have any special events planned coming up? And tell us a bit more about some of your services afterwards.
Okay, sure. So I've got the two hats. So with the festival, that's been busier, right? Because of COVID, I'm not singing gigs. But with the festival, we've managed to, woo!
It's breezy here, folks.
Nothing like live.
I know.
So we've kept it. It's nice. You know what? The breeze is welcome.
Yeah.
We've kept things going virtually with the festival. So we have some big events coming up, and they're still virtual. So we have Niagara's online summer Mardi Gras on July 24th.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So we're encouraging people to stay at home to watch the show, and the show, which will be virtual, will be bands that will be going between. We're going to be filming at 13th Street Winery, a brass band, the Heavyweights brass band. Then we go to New Orleans because it's virtual,
Yes.
and we've hired hired 3 bands in New Orleans, and then it'll come back up here for the Dragon Ritual drummers. It'll go back down to New Orleans, and then back up here for Lance Anderson, and back down to New Orleans. Now, the New Orleans bands are just about to be confirmed, but so basically it's a 6-hour stream. People stay at home, then they can get different experience packages. So we have a VIP package with 13th Street Winery where you can get wines and lots of fun Mardi Gras paraphernalia in the package. Also jams, and then you buy your cheese, and so you do this whole wine and cheese experience, and then you get a private link so that 13th Street can guide you. So that's so fun. And then we're going to have other packages without the wine with the restaurant partners. So we want people to stay at home, to get dressed up, and to have a fun Mardi Gras summer Mardi Gras event at home in their bubbles, so nice and safe. We also have different workshops that we're doing leading up to, and that people can also click on the day, so you can learn how to make your mask, you can learn how to dance around to the music.
Sounds exciting,
right? You can learn different cocktails to make, like all with about New Orleans culture and Cajun cooking recipes and things like that. So that's our big one, July 24th, and virtually. And then another really exciting event for the Civic Holiday weekend is an Emancipation Day celebration, and that's the Matter of Black is the organization organizing that, with ourselves and the First Ontario Performing Arts Centre as partners, and the City of St. Catharines supporting all of it. And so our focus is a Niagara Black History Tour, and then the Emancipation Day picnic. Now, normally it takes place in Lakeside Park, but we don't want people right now all gathering, so we're going to do picnic at home. So kind of the same system or same format as Mardi Gras. You can watch it at home, and all of these great bands. We've got Sammy Jackson, who's nominated for Juno, and the Junos are tomorrow. And then we've got Tiki Mercury Clark.
By the time this airs, just for everyone, it would have passed.
It would have passed. And so, anyways, congratulations to Sammy for being nominated. We don't know if she's a winner yet, but she's a winner to be nominated. So super exciting. Kia Emanuel, who's also a local artist. Diana Braithwaite. So a great lineup. But again, watch it at home. I mean, set up a screen outside. That's fun, right? Too, and just kind of be safe until we can gather, which will be, hopefully soon. But for festivals, most festivals are virtual this summer as well. And then, so that's my jazz festival hat. And then with my other hat, which is my booking agency, so it's Juliet Dunn Entertainment, Jade. I'm hoping to get back into bookings, because people now, like, once we can have 25 people gather, I highly suggest to the people watching at home, hire live music, right? Because musicians have really had a tough go. Everybody's had a tough go, but the musicians haven't been able to perform, right? Because what they do is perform for people.
So true.
So why not have a band in your backyard? They can be at a distance, but instead of just putting on a CD, employ some musicians. I mean, I book weddings, I book all genres of music, so classical, jazz, and sometimes I'm the singer, or sometimes I'll hire somebody else. Blues, rock, you name it, I can hire so call now.
Yes, please give.
So it's Jade. It's my
give Juliet a call, and we'll also drop the links or the contact information below this video for anyone watching who wants to get in touch.
Yes. So, and I'll just say it verbally for those who might not have their eyes on the camera right now. So for the festival, it's NiagaraJazzFestival.com, and then for bookings and to book me or myself or any of the other artists that I can book for you, JulietDunn.ca. There we go.
JulietDunn.ca.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, Juliet. You mentioned the pandemic. Oh my gosh, I'm just dying for it to be over. Already. How has it impacted you and your family and/or your business? And tell anyone watching, what advice you can offer to help them get through.
Well, hang in there. Definitely to get through. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to connect with your family. I mean, my family's not even here. My direct family's in BC. So that's been challenging for me, because with older parents, they can't travel. So, be strong, stay in touch with them, even if they're not physically there. I mean, I don't know about the people watching, but I've communicated so much more, not just with family, but with friends that maybe I'd lost touch with who live in different countries, and the communication has been great. And I must say, as hard as it is, it would have been so much harder without telephones or without Zoom or without Facebook Live or FaceTime and all that. So on a personal level, it's been challenging. Myself and my husband, we're musicians, and the power of music is so healing. And so we've kept the music going through the festival throughout the pandemic, and we've brought music to the people at home, all virtually. But we've had such great feedback from people who live alone, right? It's really hard on the mental health, but to have that connection, I mean, the other day Peter and I did a show ourselves, and even though, you know, it's a camera, we're in the studio by ourselves, but people could comment, and I was like, oh, hey, my cousin's watching from the Bahamas, and I'd say, hey, you know, Charlotte and Diane, and even though we weren't like physically together, there's this connection. I had my friend Kim watching, and just different friends and fans, and there's
this
still
is
that
via
connection.
Zoom?
All via, it's called, a thing called StreamYard, so it's kind of like Zoom.
Right.
And so that's been great. And for us, I mean, for us, a world without music is just unbearable. So at least to keep the music going, and for people who aren't necessarily musicians, maybe entertain the idea while being in lockdown, maybe getting a ukulele or maybe learning an instrument, because it just heals you from within, the music, you know. So that's so important. And then you know, so as musicians, we've had not many gigs because the only gigs we could do were virtual. So we've had a few gig offers over the year. It's almost a year and a half. But with the festival, like I said, we had funding from the government, and which is great. And we've managed to keep the music alive. We've done over 80 shows since last March, 80. So it's been busy, but it's been, you know, like the musicians were so happy to have a gig, right? Because it gave them something to look forward to, something to focus on, something to brush up on. And so, yeah, music all around is just, it's healing. It's so important. So, yeah, if you don't play it, listen to it. There's a style of music for everybody, right? So I don't think I've ever met anybody who says they don't like any music, because there's so many different styles. Like if you don't like jazz, we get it. We're not offended. However, there's a lot of music that comes under the umbrella of jazz that sometimes people don't realize is jazz. But so, yeah.
Do you care to name a few?
Well, for example, so and we've learned over the years, right? So our Twilight Jazz Series, you know, we program what we liked, etc. And then on one of our albums, it's a Christmas album. Peter put he sang the lead, and I sang backups on "Christmas Time Is Here." It's a famous tune from Charlie Brown's Christmas, and if there's kids watching, I'm sure they've heard of that one. So it kind of goes, "Christmas time is here," and it's usually a chorus of children. So Peter has a nice version of him singing it, and a friend of ours, Dan Plunkett, who's also a friend and also a sponsor, he said, you know, you guys should do like a show when it's just the music from that album, because it's a Vince Guaraldi album and it's really great. And we were like, we've already programmed everything. And then a couple of years later we went, let's just do it. We threw it in last minute. When we put it up, at the time we would do tickets on PayPal. Those PayPal tickets were flying out the door. And it was a small venue at Maté Cafe and Lounge, 80 people. So anyways, we did the show, and the show was basically this album called, what's the album called? Oh, Charlie Brown Christmas, So it's the album. So 80 people. And I asked how many people knew that music we were playing was jazz, because there wasn't much vocals, just one with vocals, and it was just piano, bass, drums, and it's all jazz music. And most people don't realize that all the music in the Charlie Brown cartoons is jazz. So people would say, oh, I love the Charlie Brown music, but then they would say, I hate jazz. It's like, you know what, you're listening to jazz.
Exactly.
So now we've realized, and that's the same thing, right? So Mardi Gras. If you say Mardi Gras, people think fun, party, get dressed up. But what's underneath Mardi Gras? Where does it come from? It comes from New Orleans. That's the birthplace of jazz. And all of the culture around Mardi Gras comes from the culture of New Orleans and jazz. And so that's why leading up to Mardi Gras, we show people more about the culture of New Orleans and the cooking and the dancing and the music, because the music is jazz. You like that brass band that you're dancing to? It's jazz. So that's kind of our thing. We just kind of we like the word jazz, and we like jazz music, but there's kind of a stigma attached to the word jazz, and a lot of people right away they go, I hate jazz, because they've heard one tune or one album of jazz that they didn't like. Hey, there's albums that it's not my cup of tea, but there's so many styles.
Do you have any favorites you want to mention?
Yeah, so well, we definitely love that Christmas album. So Vince Guaraldi for the and not just his Christmas stuff, but he's a great composer and pianist. But for myself, so singers, I would say, my three tops have always kind of been Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, Nina Simone. I mean, there's Ella Fitzgerald, Blossom Dearie. Singers who are still alive, love Diane Reeves, love Diana Krall. I love Kurt Elling in terms of male vocalists. Love Gregory Porter. If people haven't heard of Gregory Porter, please look him up. Yeah, and I do like the swing music when it swings. I'm not a fan of jazz when it's too free. I do like I like it to swing. I love ballads. I just love ballads.
Because of the storytelling?
Yeah, well, yes, the storytelling, but sometimes I think it's the chords though. Because see, Billie Holiday, I mean, a lot of the stories are really sad. So I don't know if I like the fact, you know, my man, he don't love me, treats me oh so mean. Not sure if I like the story she's telling, but like I get shivers. Yeah, but it's just the way, it's the feeling, it's the passion. Evokes. Yeah.
Juliet, you mentioned your husband Peter a few times. Yes. Not many people can work closely with their partner. Can you tell us what the secret is?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I don't know what this. Well, the secret is probably he's very easygoing.
Yes.
Number one, right? Like he's a very calm. Like I'm
he's chill.
He's chill. I'm the excitable one. So first of all, I think the key in any, like, be it working together as musicians or Peter's parents actually worked together as well. His dad is a lawyer and his mom was the legal secretary. So he grew up with parents that worked together. So, but I think in any kind of couples that work together or just couples in general, I think the secret is, like, opposites, right? We have lots of similar tastes, but you know, I'm more hyper and he's more calm, so it
there's a balance. You balance each other out.
Yes, because if it was two of me, it would be insane. And then two of him, we might not get as much done. So we're like, so I think there's that, and you know, like, when you love music, and if you're a musician, you love music, it's pretty easy to work with somebody because you're both doing what you love. It's not it's not like you're both doing something you don't like and you just happen to be working together. You just love what you're doing, so that makes it easy. And you just have to
having something in common.
Something in common,
yeah. So both love.
That's right. So we have music, but we also have traveling, which of course we haven't been able to do like everybody much lately. But and you know, we both like, you know, sunny. Like I love the sun, so that's good because if he wanted to be in the shade all the time, I'd be like, well, that's not fun. So we have a lot of things in common, and then things that are different as well. But yeah, and communication. I think it always comes down to communication. We have one rule, like never go to bed angry. So of course we fight. I think most people do.
We're human,
right? We're human, but don't go to bed angry, right? Because you just never know
what may happen.
Yeah, and so always finish with an apology or whatever. A good note.
Yes, makes sense. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
for sharing that. Wow, I can't believe it's come to that time already. Oh my gosh. Juliet, is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we go?
No, just to hang in there because, you know, the cliche, we're all in this together, because right now there's still the pandemic and different parts of the world have opened up, but Ontario seems like to be the last place on earth.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
At least we can gather outside. We're allowed to have 5 people outside now, so that's
enjoying the beautiful weather, starting to warm up. Today's one of those fortunate days.
So so that's good. So I just say to everybody to hang in there, and to if the people who are watching aren't necessarily music fans or jazz fans, do explore, because like I said, jazz isn't just one genre. There's a lot under the umbrella of jazz, and I'm sure you'll find something you like. And if you don't like any of it, that's fine, but just find some music to help you through these times, because it's very inspiring. Music with or without vocals, sometimes it's just a chord that just kind of goes, right?
Just gets you
sometimes
here.
I can just hear a chord and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So music brings people together. Music's international, right? So yeah, one last quick thing. One time Peter and I were in Cuba with my parents actually, and we went on a tour, and the tour finished at a restaurant, and there was a Cuban band, and I kept saying to Peter, because he's so good on so many instruments, right? I'm like, get up there and sit in with the guys, and he didn't at first because he's quite shy, and then he got up at the end. So we speak like poco español, like only a few words, right? But here's Peter. He kind of communicated with sign language, like, I play the piano. Can I, get up? And the guys are like, yeah. This is on YouTube, actually. I might be able to give you guys the link, and if you wanted to stick it up there. And so it's called Jam Session and so Peter gets up with this Latin band. He can't speak the language, but the language of music. Look, I have shivers telling the story. He plays, and I have shivers whenever I tell this story. At the end of this clip, the guys didn't know that he could play, and you know, looking at him, you might not think he'd know their
Yes.
culture, which is like it's Latin music, and so they're called montunos, I believe, right? And he really loves Latin jazz. These guys, like at one point, one of the guys is going like this because he didn't know Peter would play that well.
Yes.
And at the end, they're giving him high fives and stuff. And then when you hear me in the background on the clip going, Peter, Peter, because we had to go, the whole bus was waiting for us. That's why
Almost missed your bus.
I wish he'd played earlier, because he'd have played all day with them. And that's the thing, music is international. So if you start to embrace different types of music, when you travel, even if you can't speak the language, if there's a song playing and you like the song and the other person, you've got something in common. You can high five them. You don't need to speak the language, because the language is right there,
Exactly.
right? And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
Juliet, thank you so much for sharing your story
Thanks
with
for
us. It was a
having me.
pleasure.
Thank you.
And please, it's an open invitation. Please come
Thank
again
you.
on the show. And for all of you watching, thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for another episode of Conversations with Diana. Thanks.
Thank you so much, and for joining the show. Welcome. Thank you so much, Marcel. It was indeed a pleasure.